Morning to be talking to Joshua Bernstein. He's a journalist and author, prolific beer writer based in Brooklyn, New York. Josh, thanks for getting on the show, my friend.
Yeah, thanks for having me today. Really appreciate it.
I love the shirt. I'm, as always, in my all black, but you're looking very fresh, so I appreciate it.
I do have pants on too. It's not just business up front and it's like, do you have pants? Took a shower today, so I'm winning the quarantine lifestyle.
I absolutely love it, and we greatly, greatly appreciate it. So, for background for everybody, Josh and I have been connected a few different times through Brewed Food, through a lot of the beer and food efforts that we've done through Brewed Food, and then his writing. He's been gracious enough to feature Brewed Food, what we've been up to, kind of the crazy, innovative stuff over the few years. And then, I mean, would you potentially even be on book tour right now for Drink Better Beer?
Yeah, I think that book came out in September, so I was doing book events up until end of January, and I had some plans to go out further in springtime. I just kind of crushed it.
Yeah, I figured that. Drink Better Beer. Check this out. I will put this high up on my playlist. Josh has a way of making beer so ethereal. Like there's this palpable intensity in the way that you write about beer. It makes it so zeitgeist and culture in a really meaningful way. So I really appreciate that. And Drink Better Beer, go check that out for sure. His most current book, but you also did the complete IPA and just have done a lot of work in the space.
Five books in 9 years, which is pretty nuts. Yeah, that was Brewed Awakening in 2011, Complete Beer Course in 2013, IPA 2016, Homebrew World 2018, Drink Better Beer last year, and I'm tired.
Yeah. You have been busy. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about kind of what's happening in craft beer right now. As we talked about and discussed a little bit, definitely there's been a lot of attention on food and beverage and hospitality as a whole, but it for sure has skewed towards restaurants and the need to feed people. And we definitely want to give some love to our craft beer community as well. So, but tell us, kind of take us back a little bit. Once this was all happening, you realize that things are not going to be the way that they were before. You're having to cancel certain things. The landscape of media is completely shifting. So take us back a little bit and just your realization of that, and then forward to kind of what's happening with you today.
Yeah, I think early March, we started getting an inkling in New York City that things were starting to happen and break in a bad way for us. And I think even in early March, there was I think Other Half had a beer festival, and we didn't know it then. I think that was we didn't know then that was sort of the last hurrah for that going on. And then the next week, you saw things really accelerate. It's probably around the second week of March, something like that. And then people are talking about whether New York City public schools are going to be closed down, which is when you know that. I'm a parent of a 6-year-old, so that's when you know that life's going to change really forever.
Oh, I see. We shouldn't have discussed it, because then we were doomed for it to happen. We said, hey, if you get popped off, just pop right back on in case the internet is low. So what he was mentioning, we discussed quite a bit, and hopefully we can get him back here in a second. But trying to shift in Brooklyn for him, and even for us in Denver, to having kids in homeschool, and for him, he's always writing and needing kind of that space for himself to be able to write was super challenging and interesting for him, and again for us too. And so, for me personally, just to let everyone know why I wanted to have Joshua on, besides just being somebody who just really has a finger on the pulse of what's happening, again, the zeitgeist of what's happening in craft beer, but just culture in general. I'm always very interested because he specifically is always looking at the humans behind craft beer. And so I always appreciate that. That's why he, connected so much with what we were doing with Brewed Food, because it was really about a movement. And so I pivoted very quickly to doing this live show. I wanted to bring value to my hospitality community, and that definitely skewed towards restaurants. Talking to a lot of chefs, talking to a lot of people that are out there attempting to feed other humans in this moment, which is really important. However, to the point that Josh made, and why I wanted Josh on, is because a lot of people in the craft beer community have also been trying to figure out how to survive, and they're small business owners. And we talked about farmers' food going fallow in the fields, but also we got hop farmers and grain and craft maltsters as well struggling right now, trying to figure out how they navigate all this. And so it definitely seemed like at first the craft beer community was just trying to get out there, trying to, save their businesses, sell some craft beer. Yeah, quite a few have started to reach out to me in the last week. And so it definitely felt like now is really, really time to have conversations with them. So over the next couple of weeks, I'm definitely going to bring some voices in from the craft beer community, as I feel like even I had abandoned them a little bit and gone right back to my restaurant community. And so that was important for me. And I want to get Josh's perspective, and I'm bummed now. Maybe we're not going to be able to get him back, but I'm going to get some perspective from kind of what's happening at a macro level. So it turns out.
You can't do two conference calls in the house at the exact same time at this moment right now. So anyway, I guess I was saying on there too, I think around, when New York State public schools close down is kind of when that everything is really going to fall apart in a big way. And everybody's lives going to be changed. I think it was like Sunday the 15th or something like that of March that they're like, public schools are closed. All of a sudden it was like, well, life is going to get different really quickly.
Yes.
And then it did. Yeah. I mean, the next day we had to figure out like how that my wife was working her job. We're trying to figure it all out. And then it all fell apart. And so then we went to I had to go out and Janine was working full time, my wife, so I had to go out there and basically help out a lot more so she could get her work done. I was trying to get my work done at night, and then it just was not tenable that first week at all. And then they started doing homeschooling the next week. Then we had to learn how to homeschool our kid too, while also writing, and then with sort of psychic trauma of all this stuff that's happening. And then it's really been day by day. If we don't think about day by day, it's all we'll go crazy on there as well too. And so I think for me that was really. That was it. It was like schools closing, and then, schools closing, we just knew everything was going to be different from here on out. And and it's just been, every week's been different. You ride these sort of roller coasters of emotions where, I was baking focaccias for people and getting excited, giving bread out. And I was like, now I'm just want to stare into the void and not talk to anybody. It's just like, it's hard every day, and work has kind of gone up and down. I've been able to be sort of productive, but not really. Then my wife was working, and then she got laid off, and then so now we're looking for freelance stuff. Then we're like, all right, let's apply for unemployment, and like all the labor department stuff all collapsed, and we couldn't get through. And it was like we're failing at even filing for unemployment, and so
that's been such a challenge to like look any one place that you can find some normalcy has been really, really challenging. And so I was mentioning it when we lost you, but for you, your creative process, kind of having your space to be able to write, to be able to get creative and internalize some of that has been super, super challenging for you. And so, when you're thinking about media and journalism and your creative outlet and your professional outlet, give us an idea of where your thinking is at right now.
Triage is kind of like where can you find a way to kind of stop work from falling apart. I had all these basically spring was planned out for me for giant projects we're going to embark on, like helping somebody redo the content of their website, going out to a city and like working for them to like analyze their beer scenes and all these other assignments. Like pretty much within the span of like 2-3 days everything collapsed. Yeah, and so you basically had your entire spring schedule planned out for work, and it fell apart, and you can't just pick those back up again. And so it was just kind of this, you expected it, but you can expect things and still the shock of just the realization of what that's like there. And so then everything pivoted pretty quickly with media, that nobody cared about stories that seemingly were, I was super excited. I had this story in the Times that came out. I pitched it back in December. It was really about this changing nature of yeast and like why people are focusing on yeast within beer and how that's gonna be a differentiator. So I wrote this story, and then by the time it got published in the paper, it was like March 20th, and nobody cared about yeast in the same sense on there too. And so it didn't have that same emotional impact that you'd hoped previously. So that was the issue. And so, yeah.
Do you think it's just because it feels like it's frivolous or something, that it's not mission critical to kind of what's expected of us
Yeah.
in hospitality, food and beverage, or in humanity right now?
Yeah, it didn't feel critical. It didn't feel essential. I think it was there. I think we're just craving. It's both your people are craving more news of just this, what's happening. I think it's to try to make sense of the world right now and like looking for news where we can get it. So anything that doesn't relate to that is just kind of crazy. I mean, even another story I did, it became. I mean, here's how media works. So you get, for me, I get contracted to write a story, and oftentimes it's a flat rate for stuff like that too. And if you want me to change something whole cloth, that means I've got to go back out there and do twice the work. It's like you getting paid, let's say $20 for a burger. Somebody's like, you know what, this burger should really be a chopped cheese. And you've got to like do that. And you've got to like spend all this extra time redoing something. And so you're not getting paid anymore. So a lot of stories that I had that were out there too, people are like, we need to like retrofit this for these times. And so, which is hard. So then it's extra work, which unpaid, but it still works. You feel thankful for that. But then it's just hard right now. You know, I had this entire big story I wrote. I mean, it was kind of ahead of the curve on that, but it's really about how people are changing their delivery models for beer to get beer directly to consumers. But it didn't touch on any of the crap with COVID or anything like that. It was really just something I saw happening. And then just the acceleration of home delivery for beer just happened overnight. So they had to go through and I'd be like, in these uncertain times, like home deliveries become, you know, you have to go through and like make a story fit for what's happening. So for me,
the tenor shifts completely when you're talking about it being an innovative entrepreneurial endeavor versus now it being the again the necessary evil of getting people alcohol in a pandemic. So that's the other thing that I've seen when I see alcohol covered. I see two things. One, I see distillers making hand sanitizer and giving it away for free. Amazing. Like unbelievable to see the quick pivot and shift of an industry like that and the support that brings. Unbelievable. Then the other side of it is you see these like gluttonous things of like people filling their shopping carts at Costco like they're going into their World War III bunker for the next 2 years and need alcohol. And so I can see that. What I want to do right now is like, how do we get craft beer to be critical? Because there is a need for levity. There's moments for us to laugh and learn through this. Craft beer gives you all three of those things. And it's a lot of human stories of passion and craft behind what they're doing that's being kind of drowned out a little bit. So maybe give us some of your thoughts on how to bring their stories back into the conversation, because I know they're so important to you.
Yeah, I think they are incredibly important, and like rightfully so. A lot of restaurants, you know, people see restaurants and food as more essential than beer, and rightly so. You don't need beer to live, but beer makes living a lot more fun for a lot of people.
Yes.
So, you know, a lot of focus and attention got on those stories, those supply chains on there too. But I think it's from a business angle, how do you pivot to mobile delivery so rapidly? You know, from a human angle, how does a brewer go from brewing to be the guy that like drives a delivery truck? How do you go back on that too? How do you move so rapidly? How are brewers? I see brewers giving away yeast for people to bake bread, which is something that ties directly into like all these moments all together. And I see sort of like, how do you get draft beer into people's hands when you can't sell draft beer anymore? So you're seeing all these crazy vessels that are being out there. So I see like literally that like plastic milk jugs. You see giant like gallon-sized mason jars. You see people going back to growlers, which for all intents and purposes, nobody give a crap about growlers. You see a run on growlers. So just I think this story of like how do you get beer in people's hands, or even like my bars in the neighborhood now in Brooklyn, like I bring in a coffee cup and they're like, here you go, Josh. And it's not just because I do what I do, but they're like, great, you got a thing with a lid, here you go. And so those are these crazy stories right now of just sort of, I think also the larger story is just like how artificial we see all these alcohol laws are around America. That everything that we took to be so sacred that we believed in has all been tossed out the window. With 3-tier system, whatever, just load up your station wagon with a bunch of 4-packs and sell it to people on your website and deliver them to the door. It's like, you want to buy a cake for yourself? Here, come on down. You want to do anything?
Yeah.
You know, you want to go cocktail? Awesome. It's like, you see in Oregon, you see like a cideries and breweries banding together to like distribute. In Brooklyn, Transmitter Brewing and a winery deliver together. And it's like all these people joining forces in ways that never happened before. And it's just like, I can go to Keg and Lantern, this brew pub in Greenpoint, and get 3 pints of beer in a plastic cup with a straw and like a dozen chicken wings for like $29 right now if I want. And I mean, it's like walk out the door, gnaw some chicken wings, and crack into your straw of that. And it's just like, it's crazy. My favorite dive bar, Do or Dive, is selling like nutcrackers, which are basically tropical fruit punch, and that's just like, it's like the worst rum Everclear mixed with sugary fruit juice, and it's like stuff you drink on the New York City beaches. Now you just walk in there and they give you a bag of Doritos and like one of those, and you walk out the door. It's like these stories. It's like these adaptations, just these new business models and approaches. I think are so rich right now. And even from a macro perspective, what happens to supply chain? I mean, right now there's a big I was talking to folks in New Belgium. It's like some of their sales, like sales of flagship beers, are going up again because they're going to grocery stores. All these things are like such rich material that I want to write, but it's like when I don't have the mental space to write right now and make all that happen. And it's finding the right time and the right outlet and the right, you know. Look, I'm a full-time journalist and a full-time writer, author. I do a lot of events too, but the event part of my business is just like, you're not even touching that right now. So I've had all these panels I was supposed to moderate, everything collapsed as well on top of that. But then on the flip side, media is not paying the rates. The rates have collapsed for a lot of places, and also I think it's just the number of outlets assigning has collapsed too. So it's trying to find the right outlet that's going to allow me to maximize my time and pay the bills too. And that's really when you're attaching creativity to capitalism, and that's really the issue right now too. I'd love to write all these out of the goodness of my heart, but it's my job. And so you want to cook you love cooking, but I mean, you can't just cook for, you just cooking for yourself. There's writing for myself, but I mean, if someone's like, you want to cook for 200 people, it's like, maybe I'll do that once, but how many times are you going to do that?
Yeah.
How can you do it? And so it's not sustainable. And I think from the macro perspective, the supply chain aspect is we're coming in. What happens to the hop farmers? What happens to the can makers? There's going to be winners and losers in all of this right now. And I mean, the big companies that are, what was a strength of brewers, which was the taproom model, is now a weakness, because the pint in the taproom was the most valuable beer that you could sell, and you can't sell that anymore. And so what happens? And it's like, then if we have with the recession, it's like, do you really want to pay $24 for a 4-pack of beer? I mean, it's an affordable luxury still, but so then you have these ludicrous amounts of hops people are using, so it decreases the need for hops. So hop farmers already have this in the ground, and you can freeze them for a bit, but they're not like, it's not like you put them in there forever, in the freezer forever. Eventually, they got to get used.
Yeah.
So all of these things, supply chains are just kind of like, I just think we haven't even seen where that's going to go right now.
Yeah, it's going to get really, really stressed. And there's an interesting thing that you said, talking about how people are now recognizing the flimsy foundation that a lot of the alcohol laws are built upon, that have somehow become so sacred, yet clearly that they are arcane. And so people are going to fight pretty hard to cut out the middle, I think, in a lot of this. And so to your point, there's two things happening. One, the taproom model is completely dead in this moment. Yet the fact that you're connecting direct to consumer in even a more meaningful way, potentially because you are disrupting the laws that were currently in place, I really hope that now people go, you know what, we should probably stick to that model. The way that people are able to access the alcohol should be a lot simpler than it currently is.
There's no way that things can go back easily to the way they were. You know, we saw this happening with America, the Amazonification of America, with getting everything delivered to your door. I mean, before this happened, I think it's funny, I started writing stories really about the delivery models and how that was changing. Then my story went from one of just like, clever entrepreneurs finding ways to get beer to people, to being something that's like, so expected, so critical, so everything. And you don't want to go back to, you want to go back to having to go to a liquor store only between the hours of, blah, blah, blah time and having to do that? No, I mean, you get something delivered to your door that's what people want. And I think it's how can you go back to this? How can you go back to the way things were?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of things. It's, I was talking to a friend about this yesterday, but I grew up like punk rock, DIY, like scene, all that stuff. And it's like you would scream about anarchy, you'd scream about capitalism crashing down, all these structures. And it felt a lot more cathartic, I think, when you're 17 or 18 and about all these things happening. And now that's happening and everything's crumbling around you. It's both exciting and terrifying. It's like, I think that's the thing. It's like when things crumble down, we're trying to build something new, but there's still rubble all around you. So what do you do? And you got to build it back up again. So I think right now it's a lot of flailing, a lot of attempting, but there's going to be a burnout rate too. It's just the level of people trying all these things in beer and delivering and things like that. It's just right now people are running on fumes. It feels like. Yeah, it feels like people are running on fumes, and it's like that'll last for a bit. But you eventually run out of gas. I think
Here's one of the things that I see happening maybe across the board everywhere, but I'll stick in my lane of hospitality, food and beverage, beer and restaurants, is there is a simplification of the connective tissue. So you mentioned the $24 4-packs, and the really exotic hops and some of those things that have become the hype chasing model of craft beer. Restaurants are doing a lot of the same thing with ingredients, or like who's going to be the hottest new ramen shop. It only matters if it actually matters. If why and who you're serving that product matters more than the what and the how of kind of chasing. And so now in craft beer specifically, what really matters is just getting people the beer. It's the singular thing that everybody's focused on. Get the beer to the people to allow them to have that moment of connection and that moment of levity. And to your point, you don't need beer to live, but it makes living a lot more fun and enjoyable. So I appreciate that part of it. There's going to be a lot of pain, and there is a lot of pain and attrition coming from that. But getting people the food, getting people the beer is becoming the singular, because there is nothing else, Josh. There's nothing else that you can do except get people the beer, get people that cocktail or that beer in their coffee mug to give them that moment. And so I'm hoping that sticks. And if we fight to keep laws from going back to these arcane nature that they were, potentially getting people the food, getting people the beer becomes the thing that matters most. And I really, really hope for that. Thoughts on that? Thanks for letting me rant a little bit. That was good.
No, I think it is. And I think it's our pleasures have been kind of winnowed down a little bit. We don't have concerts. We don't have, there's no movies, there's no sports to distract us. It's just kind of this, everything is stretching into this, you don't know when things are going to get better and what better actually means or what normal actually means. It's like, I get so tired of this word, the new normal. And it's like the new normal changes every day. It's like it's the abnormal. It's like the endless abnormal is a better way of putting it. And I mean, it's going to be tough. I think what's happening right now is just that our pleasures are, getting food, getting a drink, getting something like that. It's our streaming shows. It's like our pleasures have been pretty down there. I mean, I can tell you this, this stuff started happening in New York City like in mid-March first lockdown or quarantine, because lockdown seems like we're just like under lock and key, but it's not. You can walk outside. It's not like that. It's just, but I've been able to watch spring really unfold, and it's been really eerie in New York City because the two dominant, in the absence of street noise, the two dominant things have been, sirens and birds. It's like the endless wailing of ambulances and birds. And so it's been, so you're focusing on different stuff. And I mean, I think you can focus on that too much. And I think some food delivery, something like that helps you. It's not, maybe it's a distraction, but what is a sporting event but a distraction? Like there are endless distractions. I mean, it's distractions and passions go hand in hand together. So I think it's good. I think when the doorbell rings and you open the door and you get like a 4-pack of beer, it's pretty awesome. It feels like the world, it feels thrilling right now. It feels different. It feels exciting. And we could all use something that brings a smile, I think.
Yeah, I did not think about the silence of New York City because I've never experienced that. I'm sure people that live there, you very rarely, if ever, have experienced silence on the streets of New York City. It's the energy, the buzz is part of
Yeah.
like the frequency at which everybody who lives there and or travels there instantaneously is hitting that frequency. So birds, I did not know that you had birds in New York City. This is a revelation for me.
We're the Eastern Seaboard, man. I'm like, what, 7 or 8 miles away from the Atlantic Ocean?
Yeah.
We're sitting in Brooklyn. I mean, we get migratory birds. We get everything. We have a little backyard out back too, and the birds like sit out there and do that. But yeah, it's been the birds and the ambulances have been really the dominant noises, and it's pretty freaking eerie. I'm not gonna lie, because on one hand you have the birds symbolize the rebirth, the new season, and then the ambulances. There's nothing. Nobody just like broke a leg. Nobody's out there broke a leg. Nobody like fell. It's like people are going to the hospital because they are dying, and so it's kind of hard to rectify with all that in your head. It's just kind of like, so you get these two strains like going in and out of your ears at all times. It's like birds and that. It's pretty crazy. Yeah.
Man, that is crazy. I knew we weren't going to have a lighthearted conversation just about craft beer and our favorite beers to drink. This is exactly why I want to talk to you, because you're just so thoughtful on like another plane of thinking. So I took the most notes potentially I've ever taken, and that's including talking to people that are like SBA specialists at banks and from the unemployment department. So you got me thinking a lot, and I really appreciate that. And I know that that's been a struggle for you, is to like not have necessarily like your plan for the next few months and be working continuously and have your creative process controlled. So I appreciate you sharing that for sure. And I am somebody out there, pay this man to write these stories, because I am so unbelievably like motivated right now to hear the stories about, how we're delivering these products to our customers, creating community in a completely new way. I want to hear about the sirens and the birds too, man. I want to read that story.
It's pretty, yeah. And I think you can feel hopeless, I think, at times too, in the face of it all. But I think if you think about it, it's about the small actions you take. It's like whenever I write a book, you're not writing a book, you're writing one sentence after another that you stitch together. And I think you can really get overwhelmed in this world. So I try to focus on small acts as much as I can. Like, I bought a 50-pound bag of flour from like basically the restaurant supply groups. As you know, there's no restaurants needing that much flour anymore. They're just not needing in the same ways. So the restaurant supply groups in New York City are now selling directly to home. You still get these bulk bags. So I went in with like 3 families on like 48 avocados, like 20 pounds of apples, and like 50 pounds of flour for me, and so some baking focaccia to give to people. It's like, do that. And also trying to patronize during my daily walks, or trying to patronize as many breweries and bars as I can. I mean, that's it. And it's like, do I need to be, am I drinking all of these? No, God, no. I try to give them away to my neighbors, do stuff like that, but just put some bucks out there in people's pockets and, at least see a face. I think you asked me earlier on about how you feel like you can be an industry leader in doing that, and it's hard. There's so much. I think you can just do it by your actions and do it up, and I try to support small breweries as best as I can right now, which means ordering delivery, the people that do have contactless pickup, going there, taking pictures of them, putting on my Instagram, showing people what's possible to go out there. And I mean, a lot of us are probably drinking more than we usually do. I mean, yeah. And that's, and that's okay right now. I mean, you can't control everything. I mean, this is not me being like, everybody be an alcoholic and support everything, but it's more of just, you know what? Things are really messy right now, and it's not that. And I mean, I think, going out, supporting that, having a couple beers, doing this and that, I think that's okay. I think for me, I think the people talk about this idea that airport rules are on right now, that, drink at 9 a.m. I mean, I don't think I've quite reached that level quite yet. I still try to look at 5 p.m. on there too. But I mean, I think for a lot of people, beers become the pleasure in their day. For the to-go cocktails become the daily pleasure on there, and getting these ones from these breweries or whatever, that becomes something they've done their part, and it gives them a little bit of happiness for a little bit of time, and they get to share what they got with other people. And I think that's what I try to do. Go to these breweries, do it up. And I mean, that's something I can do. I can affect at least the bottom line of their business. Will it change everything overall? I don't know, but you can change their bottom line for a single day. Maybe that single day makes them excited to go back to the next day. And so I don't know. It's also a weird point too, because we talked about the beginning of 2020. It was like all these stories, like the new sobriety, what will kill craft beer, what will kill beer, and it's that, and it's just, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of people that, and it's so messy out there right now. So a lot of people struggling. I feel like a lot of people struggling to stay like free of their addictions, and other people too, where it's like I can drink more. And so a lot of people are feeling really torn in different directions altogether. And it's like, it's hard. So, you see this alcohol delivery happening, but what happens to the person that doesn't drink? You're trying not to drink, and it's that. And so then then for me, I'm like, should I really be celebrating all this? Should I be doing it? And it's just, I think we're all so conflicted about what's right and what's wrong right now. And there's not an answer that fits. There's not an answer, I think, that fits on a daily basis. I don't think there's an answer that fits. Or an hourly basis. I mean, things change all the time. Like what I did to get through today, it's not what I'm going to do to get through tomorrow. Am I going to go to the park, doing a walk, do this? There's not. I think we're all trying to find different ways to, stay sane a little bit.
Yeah, Josh, that to me is absolutely the definition of leadership, is just give a shit. Like, people seeing somebody that gives a shit is like the first step. And so the fact that you're doing that, I also like that you're doing it in the way that you write, one sentence at a time, pieced together. All of a sudden you have a book put together. And it's the same thing that you're doing right now. It's your default setting. You're saying, I'm going to get one beer at a time and put one smile on my face to put one smile on their face for one fucking day, that hopefully leads to the next day and influences people on both sides of that equation. So I think that's absolutely what leadership is, which is why, again, I was interested to hear your perspective on it, because I right away think of craft beer. You're literally one of the first people I was like, oh, I got to talk to Josh, because I got to see where he's at, what he's thinking. And the fact that you're saying that is exactly what it is. Leaders don't have all the answers. Clearly, we see that playing out day in and day out across this country, across the world. The best leaders are the ones that continue to ask the questions. And that's what I think is really, really important that you're doing right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where things are going to go even later today. If we're perfectly
honest. Nobody does.
Yeah, and so I think I'm trying to get out there as much as I safely can. Mm-hmm. That's also the thing. I don't want to be a person that's cavalierly walking around and just doing that. But, targeted trips. Like, I've got, 5 breweries within a 1.5 mile walk of my house down a hill. So I can like roll down the hill on my bike, pop in. There's Stronger Oak, Wild East, Finback, like Threes Brewing, all within a few blocks of each other. And you can pop in, support everybody, and go back and you've done your thing for a day, and that's it. And I think and showing face for that. And I've known a lot of these people for a long time, because I've known them since they were all homebrewers. I've been in New York almost 20 years. And so I've watched everybody come up and help create this scene. And so I know they're more than breweries. I know the people behind it. And so I know they're struggling and they're panicking and they're trying anything they can. And so I think from my role and what I have to do, and I think it's just showing support, or even I went to Do or Dive, like the dive bar. Then I took a picture of the Nutcracker, and then I was like, and people are like, oh my God, you need to go there. And I'm like, great. If I can inspire you to go there, support this local business, and think that maybe it's gimmicky, maybe it's whatever, but I mean, whatever. The restaurant business was built on gimmicks. There's so much in the restaurant business, all like gimmicks and Instagram over the last couple of years. And so, if I can get you to enjoy a gimmick, or I went to a bar called Someday, and they're packaging like to-go cocktails in little sealed plastic baggies. And so I took a picture. People were like, oh my God, I need to go there. I'm like, great. I can show you to me, it's gimmicky, but it's like a way that they're surviving is by doing this thing. And I can show you, and maybe you think about them and what they're doing, the ingenuity behind it. And that's what people, it's really ingenious. That's what I think these stories are out there. I mean, it's, that people are being as crafty in the booze biz as anything else.
And you know what? The shift in exactly what you're saying, you talked about gimmicky, and I get that. When you look at Instagram, it's like, look at me, like traveling to whatever exotic place, or people jumping fences at private airports to take a picture in front of the G6 to be like, look at me flossing. Everyone's like trying to flex, and that has become a part of like this gimmicky thing that now Instagram has fueled a little bit within food and beverage, especially. Now you're flexing to show that these people are out here still hustling and grinding and trying to make something happen for themselves, for their community, for their small business. And I'm hoping that sticks, because when I see you posting, I know you'd always be posting something for bringing benefit to whoever you're posting about. I understand that. A lot of people are showing where they are for benefit of themselves. I think now more people are doing what you're doing, and I hope that sticks in the way that we interact with at least that platform specifically, is that I want to see a picture of the amazing food you're eating, not because you want to show off that you get to eat this fucking cool food or drink this amazing beer, or you got the limited edition 4-pack of blah, blah, blah beer. I want you to do it because you're out there supporting a small business, a human, supporting craft, supporting a hop farmer. That's what I think is going to be super cool. So that's what you're doing. And I want people to listen and hear that part of it.
Yeah, I think right now it's easy to look at social media and think of it as all about self-promotion. But I think I don't know. It's funny. I never set out. I'm a writer first and foremost. I mean, that's what I do. I like taking pictures and doing stuff too. But it's weird. Over the last couple of years, I've gotten companies reach out. They're like, "Can I pay you to promote this thing?" And I'm like, having no idea what I do whatsoever. And I'm like, no, not at all. I mean, it's just I want to support the things that I believe in, and actually really good products and people as well too. And I think that's. Hopefully we get back to that. I think hopefully with social media getting back to sharing things that matter to people. It's weird. I baked a bunch of focaccia and people are like, "How do you do that?" I'm like, "Well, here's the recipe." Then like so many people ask me, I just like screenshot the recipe I wrote for somebody, and I'm like, "Here you go." I baby birded a few people through doing this, and I'm like, I'm a focaccia influencer now, I guess, as well. Or we have like a crap ton of plants in our apartment. I mean, this is like. I mean, this is just like our bedroom's level of plants. And so,
wow. Yeah.
I know. And so I'm like helping people out with like plant stuff too. And I'm like, I don't know. I think it's just trying to find connections and doing things we can right now and like helping people out as much as possible.
That's it. Betsy yesterday was baking muffins with the boys. Last night I'm making spaghetti and meatballs, and people, we've been doing this daily, and we like skipped a day because we were just like, oh man, we're just having leftovers, whatever. And people like reached out. They're like, what happened? You were posting every day what you guys were like cooking with the boys and the family, and the fire alarm's going off, or the boys are fighting and yelling in the background. And I was like, you really want that? And they were like, yes, I really feel like it's bringing just some consistency and some stability. So I'm not surprised at all that people are looking to you to just be like, tell me what you're doing, man. And speaking of that, tell us what you are doing right now to kind of playlist some items out and stuff. Give us some ideas of plants. Is there places that you look for plants that are interesting for people? Because even little mundane things are very interesting to people right now, Josh.
Yeah, I think I've been propagating plants like, spider plants. I've been going crazy. Wishing to get one of these. They spit out so many babies. I can't remember what this was, like Sweet Chet or something. This thing, I've got like 2 or 3 of these been propagating out. So there's some propagating plants giving away to people and just trying to have fun with it all together. I think plants have been sandy, a little bit of baking, but these are things I did previously, and now they're just kind of amped up and accelerated. I think for me, bike riding has been pretty crucial for getting out, getting some fresh air, doing stuff. I've also been trying to walk around and just take pictures of all the crazy signs you're seeing right now, like the restaurants, the businesses, and just like the way that we're doing it. It's just taking stock about what's shuttered and what's open. And it's just been in New York City. there was such like an anti-Chinese sentiment for a while that pervaded our country, and fuck all that shit. But all the Chinese restaurants, even like the ones that are the backbone of like so many neighborhoods in Brooklyn and New York City, are pretty much all closed right now, and it's just been wild. Just trying to I think for me, like just trying to take in what's happening around the world and analyze why it's happening. I think that's been big, and watch things grow with the plants, bike rides, baking, and then try not to numb myself too much with TV. But I mean, you reach a certain point in the day when having a live and escape is kind of what's good for you. So I've been, what else? I think everybody else in America, Tiger King is something that I definitely watch Tiger King. And then there's a TV show, Happy, about basically like it's crazy, psychotic, like drunk cop that basically has an imaginary, like somehow gets has it sounds crazy to talk about this. Has like an imaginary cartoon friend that accompanies him. I watched that, and that was pretty good escapism. And then also been getting into, I don't know why, maybe it's like watching everything crumble down around you in the world, but getting into more folk punk and things like that, like stuff with like strong messages, like strong messages.
Yeah.
Strong messages and a sense of urgency, I guess, around that as well.
I like that. And you said early on you were getting back into Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Now I literally put that on my personal list as well, because they're like the new worst version of Seinfeld, just the worst people possible. And the show is about nothing, which is great.
I had to actually one episode. I'm like, this is just too terrible. This is just too terrible for the world that we're in right now to watch this part. And then what else? Hulu has Parasite, which that won Best Picture. So, which if you want to see a story about class war and everything, what happens when that crumbles down, class war, a movie made for the moment that we're in right now. And so what the haves and have-nots do. And so those are things that I've been watching a little bit, trying to write as much as I can, which is not a ton. And then honestly, my daughter and I have just been walking around. Like some days we'll walk like 5 miles. We'll go to park, go to parks, look at stuff, and just trying to find space in New York City is hard. So we've been driving to the beach, like Reese Beach, which is in the Rockaways, then Coney Island yesterday. And so trying to look at the beaches and stuff as well. And that's really what's been a little bit. I think nature can be the most restorative thing you can do right now. And just to watch that life is going on around you, no matter the bullshit, that things are still progressing according to some sort of like seasonal expectation.
Yeah. Oh man, it's so true. Real quick, the seeds. Is there a online catalog or something where you get seeds that I could link up for people? Because I really feel like I've been hearing a lot more green thumbs coming out of the woodworks, and I can really appreciate that for sure.
God, I don't know. I just go, what? I'm terrible at planting seeds because we don't have an easy access to our backyard garden to walk around. Sure. If you plant stuff from scratch, you have to harden the seedlings off with like exposing them to air and wind, and it's just like, I go to my place, Brooklyn Plantology. I'm not sure if they sell anything online, but if you're anywhere in New York City, Brooklyn Plantology is my place I go to, which is amazing for it. I mean, honestly, I would just, go to your local nursery, go ask them. I mean, they need your business. Whoever is local in your neighborhood, call them up. People will probably deliver plants. I mean, that spring was happening before all this other stuff. And so, these nurseries are stocked with stuff. And so find whatever is local in your neighborhood, call them up, get some stuff delivered. I think that's what best you can do with that. Don't go on Amazon and order more seeds. Forget this. Find what's local, find what's nearby. And I mean, there's something that can come out of this. It's, just realizing how important your local businesses are. And how ruthless large corporations can be and uncaring. I mean, I know it's supposed to be about craft beer, but I mean, everything ties in together. So, if you're supporting your local brewery, but still shopping, but buying everything on Amazon and not going to your local corner store or whatever, I mean, you've got half the message. And I understand convenience, but there's also a face behind something. And I think people are realizing there's faces behind your Amazon delivery driver or the UPS driver, their faces, and it's like, they're humans too. They don't want to be doing this if they don't have to. Nobody wants to.
Yeah. It used to be too many of those faces were inconveniences. Now it's the potentially the brightest part of your days, seeing another human face. It may be only this part of the face that you're seeing, but at least there's some warmth in some eyes. So I appreciate that. Joshua, amazing conversation. I knew it was going to get me energized. You got dressed up. I'm still wearing sweatpants like a schlub.
I got jeans on too.
I'm looking good, man. So I'm fired up now. I'm going to go take a shower, get dressed because Josh did. The leadership that you're showing is really important right now. Again, it's one sentence at a time. It's one interaction at a time. It's one coffee mug of craft beer at a local spot at a time. That's what it's going to take. So Joshua, I appreciate you and keep writing. And I really want to see some of these stories, hear some of these stories that you're talking about, because they're very important. They are critical in these moments.
Yeah, I think we want to document what's happening. I think that's it. And I mean, I may not have as much hunger. I'm trying to at least take stock by talking about them. Maybe other people take it. I mean, you never want to give away all of your ideas as a writer, but I'd rather see these stories being written. And it's just, they need to be written right now too. Beer has been in the backseat it's been sitting in the backseat for so long. And only now in the last couple of years, we really feel that beer was starting to kind of edge forward. But now beer is kind of being pulled back again. That it's being treated as a commodity and not as a collection of people that are making it happen again too. And so I want to go back there. Now that beer has gone back to being like the bulk buy at grocery stores instead of that, and it's like it needs to go back to reminding who the people are too.
Yeah, that's totally true. Again, getting the product and that emotion to the people, the most important thing right now. And so I can appreciate that. And I hope that part of all of this sticks. So Josh, have an amazing day, man. Go write something. I want to read something.
I'm going to drink the rest of this cold brew and go run through a wall or not.
All right, brother. Take care. Be good. Yes. I knew this was going to be a long episode too, because the guy is a poet for sure. And if you like, which I loved, listening to him speak and the energy and the quirkiness, I love all of it about Josh. His writing is even better. So definitely go check out some of the things that he has written for sure. Just Google him, get into some of his articles, New York Times Food and all over the place. Really great. And in his books, absolutely awesome. It's just like takes craft beer to another level because he's thinking about it through the lens of humans and the interaction that's coming from that. And the end product being important, but really being the manifestation of all that human capital, that human energy, that human passion. So love talking to Josh. Always get me fired up on this Easter Sunday. So tomorrow's episode, I'm going to have Megan Knowles, who's in Denver, Colorado. She is branching out and starting health and wellness services, kind of a coach through health and wellness, as she came up through the hospitality industry, through the restaurant business, and struggled significantly and found her own center and balance and is now trying to bring that to others. So a very, very important episode tomorrow, because the hospitality industry, myself included, we are professionals at destroying our bodies and our minds. It is so a part of our strength and weakness, the fact that we give so much of ourselves and then we do not take care of ourselves. So I'm excited for that episode. Look out at the Best Served podcast pages coming up here in a little bit. We'll have the full roster of guests for next week. Should be a fun week as well, with a lot of human stories. This week especially was very heavy on talking about a lot of the CARES Act, SBA, PPP, EIDL, unemployment, things like that, trying to bring some value to people who are desperately in need. And I'm really going to be focused this upcoming week, trying to continue the story of the humans behind everything. That is always what I am most passionate about, is finding those compelling human interactions, acknowledging others. That's what this is all really built on. And it's been interesting pivoting to kind of the live show. So I appreciate everyone for watching. Thanks for watching the long show. If you did, go out there, write one sentence at a time, support one human at a time. That's the leadership that Josh is showing. I appreciate that. Go out there and do that. It means a lot. Appreciate you all. Happy